Is it good?
Get it.
Welcome to season 11 of the Coaching Life podcast. And we're off. It's cold, but we're off.
Well, you really stuck that there. You really stuck that.
It's a new season. It's a horrible way to start.
That's all right. It's been a while. It's been a while, and it's about 52.3 degrees in this room.
What is going on in here? Why is it so cold in here?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. That's a really great question. I have asked, I don't know. I'm sure, it's only 7 degrees outside, and I'm sure our facilities department is buried coming up with HVAC requests and things like that. But I thought we had put a couple requests in for this.
I thought we had a big heater system that we...
Steam
yeah.
And chillers.
Yeah.
So apparently all that's working in this particular room right now is the chiller, the chilled air.
Huh.
I guarantee this is boring. This isn't anything part of our. But I guarantee you there's some valves up there. Like, cause there's valves that open and close to let the steam and the chilled air
that's frozen
all throughout this building.
Yeah.
And about every 2 or 3 rooms are controlled by a set of valves. And so this part of our lobby, which is where our studio is, that's probably the case. So there's some science. Yeah, I see you shivering.
Actually, It feels like baseball season
in Ohio. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, 50 degrees is a good day.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And we're about there.
In this room, it's 53. Yes.
Yeah.
We could play ball in this.
Oh,
that's
good
stuff.
That would be.
Yeah. There's sun shining.
I mean, March, early April. That's what you're going to get a lot. So.
Yeah.
And again, that'd be a good day. Some people play in 30. 25.
College.
Did you guys played?
We canceled.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I heard the other team.
We played it in 35.
I heard the other team wanted to play, but
played
you didn't think it was safe.
We had to talk a team into playing just because of a little bit of rain last year. The field was going to be a little bit muddy, and
you did a good job of talking them. I don't know why they wouldn't play, but I'll tell you this: I bet you don't talk them into it this year.
You said season 11. 11 seasons we've been doing this show.
Yeah.
11 seasons. Or, 10 seasons. We're getting ready. We're embarking on season 11.
I needed to go back and fact check us on our seasons to make sure that we're all
the numbers are
lined up.
You'd be surprised, bub.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know if we actually,
I wonder if
we structured it the same in the early days, but pretty much our seasons run, a new season begins in August and another new season begins in January, basically like the school semesters. It's kind of the way we've done it here in recent years. So
yeah, it makes sense. We'll have a few months here or a couple months that we're talking, and then we'll get
be a little thin,
really busy, season, and then come back through the summer months and
finish up season 11 in the summer. Yeah.
Yep.
So if you're not familiar with our podcast, it's a show where we have conversations about challenges and victories and failures and life lessons of youth sports, high school sports. Sometimes we talk college and pro sports, but it's not really a sports podcast like Barstool or something like that. It's more of a...
Sometimes it is.
So, yeah, you just never know. I mean, sometimes it is. But I think more we're about the relationships aspect between athletes and parents and coaches, and how to build better relationships and better athletes and stronger relationships and stronger athletes. And there's a lot of topics, but it's just mostly a conversation. And so, so I guess we don't ever take the time to say things like, hey, if you listen to us and you like it, leave us a comment. But it actually is. We do appreciate it though when people do that. Like, like if you're watching on Spotify, you just scroll right down. There's a comment section there. Just let us know what you think of the episode, or give us an idea. Better yet, give us an idea for some things to talk about coming up.
Disagree?
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah,
that gives us things to talk about. And if there's definitely anything that anyone out there would like to hear us ramble about, we can do that.
Yeah, help us to grow this thing, because the more popular we become, the more clout that I have when I'm teaching the podcasting course here on campus.
Still waiting for that director you're supposed to bring in, or producer.
Yeah, we are supposed to have a producer, aren't we?
You got to get that extra credit idea out there.
Yeah, Scott has one. Dean Titsworth has a producer.
Yeah.
She's one of our ambassadors. Yeah. I was on his podcast, recently.
Yes.
Did I send you the link to that?
I saw
it's called
somewhere.
Teaching Matters.
You started talking, it got boring, so I turned it off. But
right. Yeah, Scott was pretty interesting, and then
no, you got
he threw it to me.
I don't know if you sent that to me or not, but I did see it.
Yeah,
maybe I saw it on Twitter. Maybe
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think maybe he posted on Twitter, but I did see it.
It was fun. It was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was appreciative to be on there. That he asked me to be on there. We talked coaching. I mean, we pretty much talked about this podcast, really. So.
Yeah. Has Brooks invited you on his yet?
He's 3 episodes in. We haven't got an invite yet.
Daggone, I tell you,
Brooks is in my class.
He's big timing us.
He is. He's in my class, my podcast class. So he's wanting to learn. He's hungry. He's wanting to grow his. But no, his
I've
Brooks
listened.
McKellar, one of our favorite guests we've had here recently, he's started his own podcast, and it's really good.
Yeah, I've listened to those episodes, and
most recent one was with Nife Osini. Nife played football here at Ohio University, defensive back, and lives over in Chicago now. He is a wonderful, wonderful young man. Brooks's podcast is called Driven by Faith. It is. He's wanting to speak to people who. He began with the idea, I think, of talking with golfers, guys who golf, but I think he's obviously expanded to, because his first guest was a baseball player.
Yeah.
Drew was a baseball player and is a baseball player at OU.
Yeah, speaking of guests, we had Parker on.
Parker Navarro was our last episode.
Episode, and we were
that episode's done pretty well, actually.
Yeah, we were talking about the state of the team, because at the time we weren't for sure who the coach was going to be, but that
we did not know, did we? Because that was before the bowl game, wasn't it? It was between the championship, the MAC championship, and the bowl game. Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot has happened, hasn't it?
Has.
Man, a lot has happened since we were last in this room.
It has.
Gee, many Christmas.
The biggest of which, Primetime's coming to Dallas, baby.
I'm okay with that.
You just got sold on it?
Just now?
Yeah. You weren't last night.
Well, I didn't respond to you. I was ready to go to bed. Prime. Well, no. I'm okay with Prime. I don't want Prime Jr.
We don't
want Shadur there.
Deion's not coming without Shadur. What do you think?
That means he's going to Cleveland, because they're going to draft Shadur.
They're not. You're wrong about that. I'm sorry that you are.
You have a theory of how this is all going to work out to put those two in Dallas. Where's Dak going? Where's that contract going?
Tennessee.
Who's picking that one up?
Tennessee.
They're going to pay that? Or Jerry just going to eat it?
Either way. Jerry, I mean, nah, I think if they traded him, they'd have to, something would have to go on with there. They'd hit their cap or something. Yeah. Something. They'd have to take some of it.
Yeah.
But it's a quarterback.
To get Deion and Shadur?
They're gonna trade. Tennessee's going to trade their number 1 to the Cowboys for Dak and 2 more first-rounders. And the Cowboys are going to hire Prime and draft Shadur.
That's not out of the question, is it?
No, I really think that's...
is that your theory, or have you read that?
No, I think that's my theory. Yeah.
But it really isn't out of the question. I could see Jerry doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of would like to see how Coach Prime would do it.
I think that's the sticking point, is whether Tennessee would want Dak or not. For that,
that's true.
They might not. They might, but with the 2 first rounds there, I figured they would. Maybe they just take 3 first round picks. I don't know. Maybe they take 3 first round picks and Micah Parsons.
Jerry does whatever. No.
Yeah.
He does that. He does that. I'm getting rid of all my Dallas stuff.
Stop it.
He gets rid of Parsons.
You sound like Browns fans.
I'm done with them.
Pathetic.
What are the Browns? Real quick, we said we're not really a pro conversation here, but we already talked about it. So just real quick, what are the Browns going to do in the draft?
I think.
How are the Browns going to take this team that looks like it should be a playoff team defensively? Well, really offensively too.
Well, they don't have a quarterback.
No. You thought you did.
Thought we did, but we don't. And it looks like he's done for good now.
So what quarterback are they taking? If they're
I don't think they're taking a quarterback. I think they're going to trade down. Well, that's not true. I think they're going to trade down from 2 if they can. But if they can't, they're going to draft Travis Hunter, who's the cornerback wide receiver from your boys' team. And
he's not going to play wide receiver, I don't think.
No, I think he'll play cornerback, and then he'll only play I think he'll be on
many retired wide receiver analysts watch him play and say that he does not have NFL wide receiver.
Oh man, I don't know about that. I don't.
He might have ball skills.
I think he'll be on the field for a handful of snaps.
Yeah,
they'll have packages for him, but he'll be a cornerback. I think they'll draft him if they got to stay there, and then I think they'll take. I was going to say Jackson Dart from Ole Miss.
Yeah.
But I actually think with them hiring Tommy Rees as the offensive coordinator, who coached as the quarterback's coach and offensive coordinator at Alabama, that they're going to take Milroe.
Okay.
Which, I don't know. To me, I don't think Milroe's an NFL quarterback, but we need to get Coach Brendan Leister back on the episode so he can tell us about these quarterbacks. But I know I've given up on saying what good quarterbacks are going to be.
How do you tell?
Because you said something to me the other day.
Is Quinn Ewers going to be a good NFL quarterback? I heard that somebody from Texas offered him $7 million to enter the transfer portal because they want Arch Manning.
I heard Ohio State has interest in Quinn Ewers. And I do think Archie Manning.
Is Howard a senior? Is Howard entered the draft?
Yeah,
is he a senior?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do think Archie Manning is a quarterback at Texas, and I do think if there is a slight chance that the Browns do not pick a quarterback this year.
Just wait for another year.
They wait for next year.
Tank a season.
They're not going to tank, but I think Jimmy Haslam would sell the next 10 drafts to get Archie Manning. Because
you already have the other pieces. Right?
He and the Mannings are close.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And it may be something. They may add Peyton to the front office. I don't know. So it might be something like that. So that might be I don't know. I don't know what'll happen.
Peyton's got to keep doing those commercials though.
Who?
Peyton Manning. No, Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
Or debating Manning.
Yeah.
He's good though. I like Peyton.
Yeah, they're good.
He's a funny guy.
It's good when those two and Coach Belichick's on there.
Oh my goodness, I know.
I bet you there was something weird about that too.
That's something that happened between
North Carolina
last time. He and Coach Alvin will be coaching against each other within the first 3 weeks. I think.
Oh wow, that is something, isn't it?
Maybe the first week. Maybe that might.
But I saw yesterday that he was interested. He was interested in the Dallas job, and there was interest from Dallas to bring him. But there was no communication.
Like before now, or
before he took the UNC job. Like he didn't know Dallas was interested in them. They didn't know he was interested in them. But
there's nothing to say Jerry can't go after him now.
Well, it's true, but he can't go.
Who was the coach? Greg Beals went to Akron to coach baseball and was there in the fall and never coached in the spring because he went to Marshall. Marshall job opened up, and
there's something with his contract there because Belichick can't leave until after July. Which I guess would still give him time to go to Dallas.
Boy, that would.
But getting a staff together that late would be very difficult. So I heard that he's going to coach at North Carolina this year, and then he'll be back in the NFL next year. It's all part of the rehabilitation or the restructuring, rebuilding of the Bill Belichick character.
Is that what
in
it
the
is?
NFL? You put him on TV. You get some. Lovableness
and he comes
to
back
him.
to the NFL looking more like a human being, and not like a robot.
Right, get people interested in him again.
He is. Did you watch the Tom Brady roast on Netflix?
Oh my gosh, Nikki Glazer
extremely
is hilarious.
We do not recommend watching that. It was bad.
You did. What was your point going to be?
Funny though.
I didn't see Bill Belichick talk.
Oh, you didn't see the whole thing?
No.
It was really raunchy. It was bad.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Nikki
Brady has no moral compass whatsoever. Tom Brady doesn't. That guy is an absolute animal. He's an animal. When we know, that's his life. We know that about Brady. He was not human. He was just crazy. But I think Kevin Hart hosted it, right? Hosted part of it.
He did.
Yeah. But Belichick was one of the speakers, one of the roasters.
Yeah.
And, nobody, it's just, he's still dry, but he's funny.
I wonder if someone wrote the jokes for him.
That's a good question. I doubt it. Maybe some of them.
He might have worked with them.
But I bet
here's the info I know.
I think he's got that in him. I feel like he's got that in him a little bit. I don't know. Yeah. So, Yeah, a lot.
You went to the national. Yep.
Went to Washington, D.C. for the ABCA, the American Baseball Coaches Association conference. It was my second time attending it.
And it's in Columbus next year?
It is in Columbus next year. So all you baseball coaches, and I don't care if you coach 8U teams, little league teams, high school teams, college teams, pro teams, there were 10,000 people at this convention. 8,000 plus were coaches, and then the rest were, personnel and vendors and people that were there. I mean, it is like a little city. It really is. It was at the Gaylord National, which is absolutely beautiful there, and it's this little I don't know, like a little island portion of Washington D.C. that was purchased just to make this little like town in Maryland there. Just outside of D.C. and right on the water, right on one of the waterways from the Potomac River, and that big, huge Ferris wheel out there. I mean, it's freezing cold and everything, but the Ferris wheel is working. I mean, they're all heated. The cubbies are. We didn't go out there in it. I mean, you didn't need to. I mean, everything was there. Everything was in this hotel. Like all these people stay at this hotel. It's unreal how big this thing is. Huh. And
I wonder
in Columbus, it's going to have to be at the Hyatt. It'll have to be at the convention center where they hold the Arnold Schwarzenegger one. I mean, there's no bigger place to have it. Yeah. Because they're gonna bring in 10,000 people.
Yeah.
And so it's just baseball coaches take over wherever this conference is. It's actually pretty cool. It's very cool. Because the sessions are phenomenal. First main session was Tony Vitello. The College World Series champion coach for the Tennessee Volunteers, and then there's a mix of college coaches and pro coaches and high school coaches. On the main stage is mostly college and pro guys and other professionals that speak. They tend to gear those speeches to a higher level, like college coaches, but a lot of the material is really good for anybody. But the cool thing about this convention is they also have they have two main stages. They have what is called a youth stage just down the hall, which is another couple thousand seat, auditorium. Now the one that seats the main stage is 8,000 seats. You could see. I mean, I was counting the rows, and listen here, I sat in the front row every session. You got to get there an hour early. So I grabbed my coffee and my lunch or my breakfast or whatever, and I went there. I sat there. The very first day just read the Bible for an hour, and then until the session came. And it was actually kind of cool because then a lot of people came up to me and were like, "Hey, I see you're reading the Bible," and then you end up meeting people of common mind. But
awesome.
Yeah. I wasn't about to sit. The first one I didn't. We'd show up the session 20 minutes early and had to sit 100 rows back. And I'm like, I told April, I said, I don't care how long I got to wait. Or how long I got to wait for the session to start. I'm sitting in the front. One is because I can't see the screen.
I was going to ask you, Coach, why you insisted on sitting in the front. But
it's just better. You feel like you're more engaged, I think. Yeah. And
it's harder to duck getting called on for, if they want.
Yeah, right. Yeah. They're not asking for any volunteers. They got a time crunch. I mean, it's one after another like, how the Ohio one is really good.
Yeah.
It's Ohio one is like a microcosm of that. And you can't go to every session because you got to eat at some point. I mean, it's literally from morning to evening, session after session after session. So you get this app and you choose what you want to go to, what you want to attend, because there's all kinds of stuff going on. Plus, you got the big vendor hall, the exhibit hall that's going on. And not only do you have the vendors where you can walk around and shop and talk to them, but they also have expos where people are selling their stuff. They have stages where people are talking about stuff they're selling or talk about their product or how it works, the benefit of it. But like in the vendor hall, our vendor hall is, there's tables and guys are selling stuff. In this vendor hall, there's cages. It's batting cages, because everybody's there. Hit Tracks, Rapsodo, all these people, Hack Attack, Jugs, and they all got their own. So you walk, and it's just like you walk into the exhibit hall, and it's like Disney World for baseball.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You can't even see the other side. So there's this map that you're looking at on your phone that tells you where everything is. And so like April, they do some really cool things for coaches' wives too. And so a lot of the coaches' wives will go in the exhibit hall and just go around and pick up all the free stuff. Get a lot of they give a lot of good giveaways there and everything, and then good deals too. Because I had a list of things. I said, hey, when you're at the exhibit hall, look for netting, look for fungo bats, look for practice ball, indoor balls, things like that. And so she said, okay, you want to go to this table, it's at 1638, and this one's at 417, and so like all these numbers are above, so you can walk in and say, okay, there's the 800 row, there's the
that's nice,
and so you kind of know where to go, because otherwise you'd get lost in there. It's really it's awesome. It's an awesome experience. It's not cheap. Like obviously staying in that hotel is expensive, right? So I plan for it. It's a year. It's one of our vacations. And April got a lot of work done for the second semester of school, because when she wasn't walking around the exhibit hall, she was up in the room and doing some reading and some studying and some mapping out of her year. And she loved it, and I loved it, and it's a nice little. I highly recommend it, Coach. You and Chastity got to go.
I think
skip the cruise next year, or skip Vegas and go to this.
I'm gonna. I would definitely skip Vegas. Well, you flustered me there.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to go next year. I'm gonna try to get, like you said, invite anybody.
Well, it's in Columbus. There's no reason not to.
And so I'm gonna try to get our local leagues and stuff like that. Just let them know this is gonna happen. This is gonna be. And you mentioned the youth
sessions.
Yeah, talk about that a minute.
And they call it youth, but it's high school. It's high school and down.
Okay, yeah.
So it starts at high school.
So that's where you spent the most of your time, or did you
half and half?
Okay,
yeah.
Just there depending on what was being
depending on what the session was, but they're just as good. I mean, and I honestly get more out of. I started doing this a couple years ago. I actually send messages out and ask if there's anybody, like, hey, here's my context. Right, I'm in rural Ohio, 180 kids in the school district, small school, second to smallest division now, and limited resources, right? We got to fundraise for everything that we get, pretty much. And is there anyone else out there like me? I'd love to sit and just pick each other's brains, and let's just talk about your program, our program. How you've built success. What are some of the challenges, things like that? Because I feel like I learned just as much from sitting in a lobby and talking with somebody about that as I do going and listening to Tony Vitello, right? Like I love listening to Tony Vitello, but what do he and I have in common?
Right. I'm always that's such a good point, because I'm always looking for, like, when I'm trying to find a book and I'm like, I need to read a book. I'm always looking for books that are written, like, and it's hard to find. How do you, it's like, it's not AI. You can't prescribe exactly what you're looking for and find it. It's just difficult to find, because you try to find an author or at least a book about a person
similar to your context.
Exactly. It's difficult. So that's a great
I know one
point there.
If anybody wants one, let me know. It's called Building Champions.
I've read that one.
I'll be glad to send you a signed copy. Yeah.
Yeah.
At some point, I'm going to combine those two books, because I honestly like Coaching Life. The second book that I wrote, I love that book. I love some of it. I love
Coaching Life.
We have talked about a lot of the chapters from that book, but it just hasn't sold as well. Like when people say, hey, I want to buy your book, or I bought your book, and I'm like, oh, cool. And then they start telling me about it. It's the Building Champions book. And I love the way that book is structured, because it's written to the player, it's written to the coach, and it's written to the parent. And then there's a little bit for everyone in each one of those three parts. There's 4 or 5 chapters for each one of those parts. But then I had more that I wanted to, like, I had more ideas, and so that's why I kept writing, and then did another book. But a lot of the chapters that are in that second book, I think, would fit really well in the first one. And so I've had this idea now for over a year to do a second edition to Building Champions, and even, update the cover a little bit, but because a lot of people do this, they'll do a second edition or a third edition, and they'll add a few things or whatever, but keep the main structure and all the same chapters that are in that book, keep them, but then add some of the ones from Coaching Life.
I like they are two different structures, because you have the action. Did you call them action
points in the Coaching Life?
Yeah, which I really like. I mean, it's like it's a way to actually learn the material and apply the material, because you read a book sometimes and it escapes you, and you're not putting it into action,
right?
So I like that. So I thought I feel like that's one of the things that made both of those books good on their own, is like you said, Building Champions was more for who was reading it, and then Coaching
and it
Life
had more baseball specific stuff to it, right? That Coaching Life, there was a little bit of baseball in there, but Coaching Life, pretty much, I would say anyone, any sport, any part of life will get something out of this for the most part. I mean, I can't
really remember.
A lot of the stories are baseball stories.
Yeah,
that's what I.
I feel like whatever perspective you have when you read it, it's going to fit that. Both of those books will, I feel like. Yeah. You know what I mean? Just like our podcast.
Exactly. One thing I will say, it is kind of like a podcast in that sense, the book is, because one of the things I think I said, it actually might be on the back cover, where it said, I talked about how this isn't a book that you just read from start to finish, right? Like, you don't have to. You can, but like if you look at the table of contents and you see like, internal motivation versus external motivation, I want to read about that. Just go to that chapter and read it, and you're not like, just skip it when you get to it. Then like you can read, it's like popcorn. You can read those chapters anytime you want, and it's not going to make the book make any less sense. I think is one of the things I like about that.
Yeah, for sure.
It doesn't build. Each of the chapters don't build on one another.
Yeah, I agree. So, put you on the spot.
But I'm with you there on that. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to write one. I mean, the whole reason I wrote it was because I know there's a lot of other people out there that's having the same issues that I am.
Sure.
That I have had and I've experienced, and I want to help, but I don't know of any other books that are talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
And so here we are on the ground, little old rural coaches, and we got a resource for you. So
yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna put you on the spot. You ready?
Ready. I got sun in my eyes here.
Single most important thing you heard at the national conference.
Wasn't ready for this question, but I did bring in my notebook that I filled up here for the.
Yeah, that is one thing. I remember the first time that I went to the state clinic, you told me that my hand would get tired from writing down so much stuff. That's you sit down and you just start writing and you don't stop.
It's really hard to answer your question.
I knew it would be.
The single most best thing, because there are so many good things. But I'll tell you, it probably came from a session that I didn't expect to get an answer like this, right? But this session was really good. So there were all 4 coaches from the UConn staff that spoke. They did like it wasn't really a panel because we weren't asking questions, but they the head coach spoke, and then the hitting coach and the pitching coach and the recruiting coordinator, and they would kind of bounce back and forth off of each other. And for one, their college program and the context of their college program is probably the closest to like our high school program. Like when they began there, their resources were, they were playing in a public park. The field that they played on, that UConn baseball played on, they couldn't keep anything at the field because they had no storage there. It was a public park. Their coaches were getting parking tickets for going over there to practice. They showed up one day and their dugout there was a bobcat on the field, like a skid steer bobcat on the field, and the dugout was demolished because it didn't pass code, city code, and they had to take the dugout down, and he's like, he was hired there as a head coach as a 36-year-old, I think he said, and so he's like, the fact that they hired me.
gave him.
He's like, I knew what the program was like, because why am I getting to coach college baseball right now?
Hey, man.
And he's turned it around.
Hey, that's awesome.
They won their conference last year.
I didn't know that about them. Yeah.
So So anyway, there were a lot of, one of the things that was happening with there. So I'm going to give you a few things from this session because it was this is probably one of my favorite sessions.
Okay.
I didn't think it would be. It's the cool thing is like when you're looking at the list of sessions beforehand, in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I'll go to that probably. But that didn't stick out to me as being one that I would take away and the most.
Yeah, I hear you. I have like a phobia of that. There should. I wonder if there's an actual name for that. Not knowing what you're missing out on.
I know
a phobia of it because I'm like, I don't know.
Well, this conference will drive you nuts then if you got that because you're going to miss. You're going to miss something.
But the state
and you're going to miss something really good.
I feel the same way about state clinic.
Yeah. So I'll give you two things. This is from a session. The second thing will be another just like a personal interaction I had.
Okay.
But there's some quotes here that just were really good. Like when he first started coaching, like they were playing schools that they could afford to travel to, and plus their conference. They had to play their conference schedule, but like their non-league schedule was these smaller schools that they were able to win. And he's like, we're not doing that anymore. And he said, soft schedules create soft teams. He said we're scheduling up and we're going to play some teams. And that struck me because of the schedule that I created this year. There's been some buzz in our community. People start looking at our schedule and are like, why is he having us play? Not our kids, but I've heard some buzz from adults like, why is he having us play Jackson and Athens and Warren twice and Meigs twice? And I'm like, we always play Meigs twice, I think. I don't know. I mean, since I've been there, we have.
I get asked that question too, but
about why you play in bigger schools. Right, we're playing Lancaster, Division I school, right? And that's why. Because the truth is, Berlin Highland would have beat every single one of those teams last year. Berlin Highland would have probably beaten every state champion in all 4 divisions last year at the state. They would have given the D1 champion a pretty good run, I think. And so if we're gonna compete, and we truly do have a goal to go to Akron and play in a state in the state level, we got to be ready for that. And I don't care if we end up going into tournament time with a 500 record because because we made our schedule tough. Yeah. I just don't care.
I
do care, and that's why I care, because I want to be ready come tournament time.
Sure. I mean, it's not like you're not going to those games not trying to win either.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But that's part of what you're building is the mentality to walk in, to go into a game like that where people, where it's like, well, we don't normally do this, but walking into that game thinking, we're going to win the game. We're coming to win the game. We'll play anybody that we can play. But I give you credit for that.
Well, in the way here's another thing he said along those lines is he said when people asked him why are we going and playing Notre Dame and why are we going, he's like, we can't be it if we don't see it. It's like these kids don't know what they can be. And the reason they don't know they can be it is because they've never seen what that looks like, what that level of play looks like. And we got to see it. We got to know you can be that, but it requires more.
It's the whole, like, if anyone has an argument about it, like this is the argument, or I would say a fundamental argument for travel baseball.
Yeah.
Go see better teams, right? That's what everyone always tells you, right?
It's not always the case.
It's not,
and it's not world.
Because of
that was historically the selling point.
Yes, because of the same perspective that people are asking, why are we playing these teams? Why do we play these? Because that creeps back in. But that's why you do it. It is to get better.
It is, yeah. I don't know. There was this guy. These guys were pretty funny. Also, like they talked about how some of the corrective activities that they get, like punishments for guys showing up late, things like that.
What was it?
This is just kind of a funny thing. He's like, we'd do crabgrass pulls because he's like, that's how crappy our field was. So we'd make guys go out and just pull crabgrass chunks off the grass. Like, that's a good idea. I wrote that down. So these like right here, like this was my page of notes for that session. But then I also created a tab on this notebook toward the back and working from the back forward of like takeaways, because it's one thing to write everything down that these guys are saying that you think is really good, but it's another thing to say, okay, what can I actually use?
Now, did you do that after or before or during?
This was proactive. I had this ready to go. Yeah. During the session. Yeah.
Okay.
During the session, I would just pause and I would do it after also. Like at my hotel room that night, I would go back through my notes and write down some takeaways.
Yeah.
But like a takeaway that I got from that session as I'm sitting there, I don't know. I had some thoughts come to my mind, like, hey, they don't give invitations to Akron like going to a wedding. You got to win. Yeah. You got to get there, right? No one gives you an invitation. You got to earn it. And so just some little things like that, little thoughts I wanted to remember. But I don't know that there were lots of things like that. One of the speakers was John Gordon.
Oh, yeah.
Probably one of my favorite authors, right? If not probably at the top. John Gordon is the author of The Energy Bus, the Positive Dog, the Training Day,
Hard Hat,
Habits of a Successful Team, the Hard Hat, 21 Habits that build a team, I think, or 21 Habits, I don't know, but just his books,
21 Habits
his
of
books
a
are
Successful
Team. Yeah, and he's wrote a new book that he was talking. A lot of his talk was based on the new book that he wrote called One Truth. I bought that book. It's my next read. He actually is working on another book that will be coming out in May, and it is called Seven Habits of a Highly Successful Team, I think, something like that.
Was the 21 dysfunctional? Someone wrote a book, the 21 Habits of a Dysfunctional.
That's Patrick Lencioni did a Dysfunctions.
Okay,
but I like Patrick Lencioni. Yeah. But his is 21 Habits of a Successful Team, I think, because it was based on the guy that was killed playing field hockey or lacrosse from, was it Cornell, I believe.
I don't think I've read that.
Yeah,
one.
But John Gordon's new book is called. I'm looking for it here. Gosh, I got his note. I took 4 pages of notes during his session.
Did you talk to him about coming on the podcast?
I did.
No, you didn't.
I met him. This is what I'm getting to.
Okay.
So after another cool thing they do, by the way, and I'll get to that, but it reminded me of how I got a chance to talk to him. There's the main session, which is about 35 minutes, and then immediately after that session, that speaker goes into another room that seats about 100 people, and they do a Q&A. Mm-hmm. And then but then they start the next main. So you got to decide if you're going to go to Q&A or you're going to go to this main session, right? So so when John Gordon was speaking, I went to the Q&A, and there were a lot of people packed in that room. And then April came too. I said, why don't you come down for at least this? Because the wives aren't allowed to go to the main sessions. At some point, they got to cut the numbers off because it's huge.
Right.
But I said, come. I said, she loves John Gordon. I said, just come on down for this. And she wasn't the only wife in there for that. And she did that Energy Bus for schools. She introduced that to Athens City Schools.
Nice,
and she did the training with Nikki Spears, who's John Gordon's right hand woman in his business and everything. And so anyway. He had a little booth there. He was selling books, and somebody from his team, his company, was there as well. But he was sick, and it's one of the things he told us in the Q&A session. He goes, "Hey guys," he said, "I got in last night." He said, "I went to bed at 6 p.m. last night because I feel like trash." So he said, "I'm going to give away a lot of stuff, and like when you ask a question, you're going to get a free book." And it's like he just had a stack of books and of different books, and he was just giving them away every time someone asked a question. And but he said, "I'm not going to shake your hand because I don't think you want to shake my hand." So he said, "We'll do a fist bump or something." And so it was a really cool session and everything. And so I thought, well, that means we're probably not going to get to, because I was kind of hoping I would run into him, because you see these guys. I mean, there's a lot of people there, but every now and then you're like, hey, Tony Vitello. Hey, I didn't get to meet Tony like that, but I've met other coaches like that. Nick Mingione from Kentucky was one guy I got to meet like that. So I'm like, that's a bummer. I was kind of hoping to get to chat with John Gordon. Well, later that day, so Gordon was in the morning, that afternoon, I'm walking down on my way to one of the youth sessions, and I go by John Gordon's booth. He has a booth, and his guy is there, selling the books and talking to people and everything. And he had some bracelets there, and so I grabbed a couple bracelets for April because they're like Energy Bus. And I walked down to that youth session, and I'm standing there and I'm looking at the bracelet, and the bracelet says E plus P equals O. And I went, is that a misprint? E plus P equals O. Because E plus R equals O. Event plus response equals outcome. John Gordon, he didn't originate that. I think who's the...
There's two guys that...
No, see, they stole it from him. Tim and Brian Kite stole it from him, and then Urban Meyer stole it from them. And yeah, Gordon, that was in the Energy Bus. So 2005, whenever that book was written, 2004 or 5. So anyway, in the Energy Bus, I knew that it said E plus R equals O. I'm like, what is E plus P? And so I'm like, I'm going to go ask. So I went back out there. I was going to ask that guy. I'm like, I'm going to check that book because maybe it does say E plus P. I'm like, is it positive thinking? Positive response, probably. And so I got there, and he has all the books on the display. So I grabbed the Energy Bus, and the guy goes, if you're going to start somewhere, start with that one. I said, but I've read this 4 times. I said, I got to check this. And so as I'm looking at it, Gordon walks up, and he's like, oh, you're looking at John Gordon has this raspy voice. He's like, you're looking at the bracelet and seeing the P. He goes, I wrote that book in 2007. And I'm like, yeah. I said, I'm checking this. He's like, yeah, you noticed the difference. It's not R. I said, yeah, it's P. So we're sitting there chatting about why he changed it. It does mean positive. He said, everybody's using E plus R equals O now. He's like, I want my own thing. So like my thing is kind of positivity message. So it's like, if you want to have a better outcome, then don't just have a response. Like we're not trying to just teach have a response. We're teaching have a positive response.
Sure. Yeah.
And so he said, I want to emphasize the positive response.
Well, because it's more of a successful thought because while E plus R equals O is true, it's always true.
Always true. Yeah, the event plus your response is going to influence what the outcome is.
The point of that message is have a positive response.
Have a positive response.
So that you can control the outcome.
Yeah, and the outcome becomes a little better outcome.
I'll be darned.
It may not be the outcome that you want, but your outlook of it will be better.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what he and I were chatting about. And I was like, okay, I didn't think I was going crazy there. And he's like, oh no. He goes, so what books have you read? I said, the easier question would be which ones I haven't read yet. And he goes, okay, what books haven't you read yet? And I said, I haven't read One Truth, and I haven't read the new one you mentioned. He goes, well, that doesn't come out until May. He said, One Truth just came out recently, so that's the one that my talk was based on. I said, well, I just bought it today. And I said, I wish I had it because I'd have you sign it right now. But I said, can I at least get a photo? Because my wife will be extremely jealous that I'm sitting here talking to you. He goes, well, if you don't mind, he goes, I said, I know you're sick, but I said, I've been dealing with it too. Like I felt kind of horrible the first day of that conference also, but I'm powering through this baby. And that's exactly what he did. So I took a little selfie, and as we're standing there, like the selfie is terrible because we're still talking. Because as we're standing there, I said, hey, by the way, John, I got a podcast too. And he starts laughing. And I said, you probably are expensive to get on the podcast, aren't you? He goes, we'll talk. And so that was kind of it. You know?
Yeah, he's not coming on.
He's not coming on the podcast. He sells everything now. I mean, he's learned. He said,
well, I'm going to be honest with you.
He's like, you know what? And that's what he said. He's like, probably what you're about to say. He's like, I learned just to not just, he's like, people want something of value and they're going to pay for it. And he said, I felt like an imposter for a long time. And I realized people want what I have and it's worth something. And so I should sell it. And so I should charge people to come and speak. And he's like, I make no apologies about that. I'm like, 100%.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Yeah. Yep, for sure.
Man, I've talked a lot.
I guess that means we need to start with some subscription fees and things like that for the podcast.
Start a Patreon site.
Yeah.
And you get bonus episodes of ours. You get
like
sort of behind the scenes.
Yeah.
The uncut versions. There are no uncut versions. This is it. What you see and what you hear is what you get.
Hopefully you cut out that intro, but no, you can leave it. Yeah, you've talked a lot.
I have.
There's a lot of stuff to talk about.
There is. That's man, that gets you ready now.
Well,
it gets you ready.
There's no time to breathe because we're on that slope towards the beginning of the season.
And I'm kind of looking forward to the fact that, like, we haven't had our state clinic yet. And
Right.
I think we did an episode last year where we previewed it, right? We tried to, we were like, hey, if you're in Ohio and you're, you know, and you're listening to this and you're thinking about being on the fence about going, here's why you should go.
Yeah.
So I really, you know, I talked to a lot of guys at the ABCA about their state conventions, like they're high school guys. And I knew this was true because you hear speakers who go to these different states say it. But our convention at Ohio is one of the best. It's one of the best. Like the guy in Florida, I met a guy from Florida, high school coach in Florida, and he said they're lucky to get 300 guys to show up for theirs.
I think I've heard speakers, you know, from different colleges and, you know, people at the state clinics actually say that too.
They're
like
impressed.
Compare Ohio's to other states. Yeah.
And ours isn't until the end of this month. And so we're going to have our state clinic, and then it's a literal 3 weeks or 2. Is it 2 weeks?
It's 24th, right? So you're talking a little over 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Or are you talking about mandatory?
Our clinic is the 31st. It's the last. So our clinic goes to the first week of February. So that means we are 2 weeks, and then the season starts. So after our clinic is over, we have 2 full weeks, and then the following Monday, the 17th, is the mandatory practice season, which I think that's pretty cool.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I thought it was the 24th.
Nope. It's the 31st.
No. I'm talking about when we start practice.
Oh no, the 17th is the first day of baseball. You got to redo your calendar.
I gained a week on my. I think I did. Maybe I'm just having a brain fart right now, and I'm not. I've got my schedule because I've got my practice schedule, which that's something I'm gonna coach it. We're gonna have a coaches meeting Sunday, and we're gonna talk about, you know, kind of the plans and if there's anything we need to make changes to it. But I've got my my practice schedule for what I want to do and accomplish in the first 2 weeks of practice, and, you know, all the way through up until the beginning of the season. But I think I started that on the 24th.
I'm double checking myself here as you speak, just to make sure
I think
that
you're right.
I'm not misspeaking.
24th.
Oh, whoops! I typed the wrong. I went OHSBCA. It's OHSAA that I want.
I'm gonna I have my computer out in the car. I'm gonna check that as soon as I get out there.
You got an extra week of preparation.
Maybe I might be lying on myself. It might be that might not be true. Actually, let's think about this, because our first scrimmage is February or March 8th.
I think we're scrimmaging that early also.
No, I do. I think I did not know that. I don't know how that.
See, now you're pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, now I have another week to work.
Here we go. Oh, I am wrong.
Oh no, no, coach.
That stinks. Because now I got to condense my calendar.
Well, I'm glad I'm not on that end of it. I wish it was the other way, but
why did I think that why would I think that it was the 17th?
I know why you didn't. Why you thought it, because you're scrimmaging early. Because you're scrimmaging early. It's probably earlier than you've scrimmaged. Because I felt this same way.
We're going to Highland, I think, on the 11th.
I got to figure out.
Is that a Saturday?
There's a lot to be done in 2 weeks of practice to prepare for a scrimmage. Yeah. Are you taking everybody?
The 8th. Highland the 15th. We're going to Logan Elm the 8th.
Okay.
To scrimmage, yeah.
Yeah, that's Saturday, right? Yeah.
Yeah. That's 2 weeks of practice. 2 weeks.
Ironton? No. I can't remember. Wheelersburg. We're going to Wheelersburg on the 8th.
Yeah. That's why you've got to get a core group of kids. That's why these Sunday bullpens and hitting.
So important.
It's almost granted, it's got to be voluntary, but it has to be a necessity.
Yeah.
Like for your program, it's a necessity. For the kids, it has to be voluntary. But you almost can't be ready to scrimmage. You cannot prepare a team in 2 weeks.
From a physical
effectively
from a physical perspective.
From a physical perspective.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're good at what you do, you're going to have them ready to go. But your kids, if the first time they threw a bullpen was February 24th, and you're going out and you're pitching kids on the 8th, you better have a new pitcher every 25 or 30 pitches.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, I guess you probably shouldn't scrimmage, but yeah, that's not very much time. I mean, it doesn't surprise me because everything is getting pushed back because of, they added a week of football playoffs essentially. And that means, that actually makes me feel better because of the basketball playoffs. How many basketball guys do you have on your baseball team?
I'm not for sure. Because not returners. Not
your basketball team is going to go deep in the playoffs, which means you're not even going to have kids for that scrimmage, probably.
I don't have a lot. One thing I'm going to try to do this year, I'm going to quit saying I.
Well,
try to focus.
We
don't have a lot of players that play basketball unless some guys come out that haven't played in previous years.
Gotcha.
I think we have one varsity player from last year's team on the varsity basketball roster.
Yeah.
And we have some JV players that also played, and they're playing, JV basketball. They should be available.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's not going to impact us, but like gym time would impact because they'll be in there. We'll have to go after them, we'll have to work around them and which, it makes sense. I want to see our basketball team make a deep tournament run. It would be good for
your basketball team is 11-0 right now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll tell you why I thought it was the 17th, Pat, because the first day of baseball practice is always on.
They changed it.
President's Day.
Yeah, they changed it.
It's always on, and I remember like the kids aren't in school, so we were able to have like a little bit longer practice time that day, and that's why in my mind I'm like, well, yeah, it's the 17th. I didn't even look at the calendar. I wrote everything. Like our kids are expecting to start on the 17th, so I've got to go back and correct that. I would have been in violation.
I was gonna say you might as well just go ahead and do it. It ain't like you don't cheat the rules normally anyway. So
yeah, cheat the rules. Goodness. All right.
Well, I'm sorry.
Here we are looking at our yeah. You made this a depressing day.
You almost made me feel real good.
We're going to have 2 weeks since the clinic, so it'll be 3 weeks. After the clinic, we got 3 weeks, and then we're ready to go. So it's still exciting.
It is exciting. Yeah, seems like it's been a while since we've.
I mean,
been on the field.
The truth is, it gives you another week for things to dry out, for snow to melt, and things to. I mean, I don't know if we can see behind you there, but there's still 4 inches of snow. Like we haven't seen a blade of grass in a while here.
Yeah, I went up to the field the other day or yesterday actually, and it's odd looking at it with all the snow on it.
Yeah, no chance to melt.
Yeah, but it will. It will melt. It'll get warmer, and we'll be playing the greatest game in the world.
Warmer days are to come.
Yeah,
playing the greatest game in the world. That's right. So, yeah. What else? I mean, I don't want to. I monopolize a lot of the time. What has been?
Well,
we've got a little bit of time.
Well, my time's been spent preparing for what's coming next. This is the first year I haven't coached basketball in a long time, so I've been, been able to focus on, workouts and then, getting guys together on Sundays and throwing and hitting to prepare for that. So that's, did I go to Vegas before?
You don't want to tell us about your Vegas trip?
Did I not go? Did I already talk about that?
When did you go to? No, because we had Parker in here. We spent the whole time talking to Parker. You didn't go before that episode, did you?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
Think so. In fact, I think we even said he's going to Vegas.
Huh.
I don't know.
Nothing to talk about.
Was that like
no?
Was that you and a bunch of friends or?
Yes.
Like I never get invited to these trips.
I don't know that you want to go because
you
never invite me.
You're probably right. I'm not sure I'd want. I've never. I got to be honest with you. Nothing against you and your trip. I have never had a single desire to go to Las Vegas in my life. Should I change that? Like, is it a place I need to see? Because I like seeing places.
Well, I'll say this: the most fascinating thing that I saw I am who I am. So the other other people may not agree with this. Like,
the hotel TV was the most fascinating.
It wasn't. However, I do have a story about that. The most fascinating thing I saw, there was an Eiffel Tower restaurant there. It's a scaled model of the Eiffel Tower. So you go up in an elevator and cool. you're on this, it's pretty cool. And so you're above the city and you're looking out, and it's Las Vegas. Yeah. It's the city. But I'm looking around, and Chastity says, "Hey, look at that." And I look over, and the city is, you're looking down over it, and the city is parted. You can see between buildings, and you can see a mountain in the background. And that was the most fascinating. Like, I'm like, all this stuff, and I've been, I've been doing some study on, well, it's on relationships is what it is. Yeah. But when you think about King Solomon at the end of his life, when he's laying on his deathbed, and everything's meaningless. Yeah. And what he means by that is all these things that we have and all these things we experience are meaningless without a relationship with God. So He
acquired everything that anybody could possibly acquire in the known world at that
Absolutely.
time.
Yeah. And he was even saying that about who he was, his wisdom that God granted. Like, even that, without a relationship with God, nothing we have has any value at all. And, it just made me think, all these, the structures and the people and everything great about Las Vegas still kind of, in my mind, paled in comparison to this dirt mountain, that's set in the background.
We can't build anything like that.
Something that God created. And I don't I probably won't go back. If I go back to Vegas, it'll be for a brief period in Vegas, and then to spend some, go to the Hoover Dam, go to the Grand Canyon, go to things like that. Like, that's what
I'd rather see. Yeah.
And we didn't have time to do that when we were out there.
Why we would rather see things like that? Like the Grand Canyon, the beauty, the majesty of the mountains. It's because we're built for that kind of wonder, I think. I don't think that there is there's a reciprocating feeling of fulfillment and joy and happiness and peace and all of this that happens when you go and you behold something that is so much more majestic than you. But people love to go to these things. But nobody goes to the Grand Canyon to say, well, why are you here? It's because I'm working on my self-esteem. Like, the greatest thing that you could ever do for yourself to feel better about who you are is actually to empty yourself, is to go someplace and to see something that is so much bigger than you, where you feel very, very small. Yeah. But when you go and you see when you stand in front of an ocean and you are like, this is amazing, the power that's here, and you really consider it, it's like, that makes you feel really small, but there's something about it that also, when you walk away, you're like, I feel good. And I think that's something we can't build something like that. That is, you talk about evidence of God and evidence of how God works in human beings, the people that He created in His image. That's it. I think that's an example of it. Like, you went to this place where they've built the most up to date, they've got the man-made wonders probably of any city, and what you noticed was that mountain in the background.
Yeah. I think there's something to what you're saying there, because that's, the descriptions that we have of heaven that we get in Scripture is, that it's, I mean, obviously they may not, what they were seeing, they might not have understood, but they were using
the best they could to describe
of natural things.
Yeah.
You talk about the streets of gold and the crystal seas and things like that. It's because we can relate to those, and we think, oh, that's amazing. So it draws us to a greater place. So yeah, you're probably right about that.
Sure.
It's good stuff. But yeah, I wasn't very impressed with Vegas. It was.
See any concerts or anything? Or
we didn't. We talked about going to the Globe, the Sphere.
Oh yeah,
but we never.
I would like to do that.
Yeah.
See a concert in there. That'd be cool.
Know. Really, the coolest thing that we did, we went to this place called Cowboy Christmas. The rodeo was in town, at Vegas.
And it was Christmas time, yeah, or
and,
after Christmas.
Well, it wasn't. It really had nothing to do with Christmas. It was just this big convention where, I mean, they were selling. They had all kinds of stuff. Just kind of like, there's a place called Desert Rifles that its company makes 50 guns, rifles a year, and each one sells for 15.
Really
grand.
valuable.
Oh yeah, they're handmade. Everything about them are handmade.
Wow.
Yeah, but there's just neat stuff like that. But that was probably the most impressive thing. I tell people,
if you have a cowboy hat by any chance, get you a cowboy hat.
I didn't get a cowboy
10-gallon hat.
No. Do I look like a guy that? Do you take me for a guy that wears a cowboy?
I've always wanted a cowboy hat. Like I've always wanted.
Well, you could have got him there.
I wanted to be a cowboy hat wearer.
Yeah.
But like you can't just do that.
Why?
Like you can't just wear a cowboy hat.
Why?
I mean, I guess I could, but
sure you could. Cowboys
What's
do.
this guy doing wearing a cowboy hat?
You know what? I don't. People wearing cowboy hats usually don't get messed with.
That's true.
Yeah, for one reason or another.
That's true. Yeah.
So, but I tell people, I say, if you want to know what Vegas is like, go to Bob Evans, order a breakfast. No, stay with me. Order a breakfast. Go to Bob Evans, order a breakfast, and when the bill comes out, give them 4 times as much.
Oh.
And then that's Vegas. That's your Vegas experience. That's what you need to know. I'm probably a little bitter.
Got it.
I'm a senile.
See, I thought it was the other. For some reason, I thought it was the other way around in Vegas. I always had this idea that things were cheaper.
I think
to
it
buy
used to
there
be. I think something happened
because they wanted you to spend more money in the casinos. They knew that people were going to lose a lot of money in the casinos, and so they could make things more affordable. That would attract people to come. And then, hey, it's so cheap to eat breakfast, and and this buffet is only $12.95. We may as well go in here and spend some money on roulette or something.
Yeah, no, that's not it. But they like if you do stay in a casino for a while, they'll start giving you free drinks.
Yeah.
I did not. Chastity played
a little bit,
some slot machines, but I did not
win anything.
I'm just saying, I don't know. I'm just hard to get along with.
It really doesn't appeal to me.
Well, here's the thing.
I like watching the roulette game, the roulette table.
Yeah, see, I don't like. If I played, I would play poker, but I don't like. I don't like cash poker.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know anything about it.
So Coach Holly.
Oh yeah, he knows a little bit about it.
He's a professional poker player. He likes, you sit down. He plays a lot of cash poker. You sit down, and you can keep playing as long as you have money. I don't like that because I don't want to be sitting across from a guy that has a lot more money than me. Right. It makes my moves less significant. So I like to play tournament style poker where you buy in and you get a certain number of chips.
Yeah.
And when you lose those chips, you lose. But the more chips you get, the more and whoever has all the chips at the end wins. It's hard to find that, but they do have it. But I wasn't motivated to.
Yeah. I mean, you almost had to kind of invest in. You got to know what you're doing.
A little bit. I think people. Yeah, I bet you Sean could have told me. Well, if you'd have done this, you could have found it a tournament game.
I'll tell you what's weird. Like what I don't like about casinos is like I always feel like
people's watching you. Or?
Yeah, I just kind of. I'm always like
because they're kind of like
what's that guy looking?
No matter where you're at, they're out in the open.
I feel like the people who work there are paranoid. Like you got these guys that are walking. You got and these guys standing behind the people that are dealing the cards in their suits, and they're scanning. And I'm like, this guy, like, all I'm doing,
looking for card counters.
We were on the cruise, and all we were doing was watching people gamble. Like we didn't do it; we just watched. And I felt like, man, this guy's just watching it. Like, are we not allowed to just stand here and watch people lose money? Like, can I not just do that just for entertainment value? And it just feels like there's a paranoia in there. Like, don't win too much. You win too much.
Yeah.
Like, well, that's the whole reason I'm here is I want to win a whole bunch. Right? So
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't either.
Yeah. It's these mafia places. That's what happens. Cool.
Time to go.
Buddy, we've been here for a while. What do you think?
Yep. It's good seeing you.
Yeah, it's good seeing you.
Back rolling. We'll be releasing episodes on Wednesdays going forward.
Yes, because we're going to record on Tuesdays now. My class is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and actually meets right before we came in here today. So it makes it a little bit of a
struggle.
not a struggle, but just I'd rather have a little time for us to prepare in here. So it took us a little while to get going today. So
yeah, we like to talk.
Yeah, that's right.
We
haven't caught up with each other in a while. So.
Yeah, right. It's good to see you. Nice to be back on the air.
I forgot to talk about my hat.
I was going to ask you about it, but I thought maybe I saw that.
So that's Grace Christian University out of Michigan. My nephew Gavin,
that's right,
committed to play there, so he gifted us with some caps and
sweet.
His grandpa with a shirt and so that's I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that here today.
Grace Christian
Kids are
University.
Starting to commit. They're signing days coming up here,
and they got a good one. And Gavin Stewart, he's a winner.
Absolutely.
I believe in that kid.
Will be the best teammate that you have had at Grace Christian in a long time.
Yeah. Yep. So, good to hear.
Cool.
See you, everyone.